Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. Every day, obliterating confusion, amplifying truth, pursuing clarity. And we talk about the stuff that's on the front page, but sometimes we like to talk about the stuff that may not be front page, but still important enough news that you need to know about it. And sometimes we talk to the people that make that news. And about, 4 or 5 years ago now, I met my next guest, and it was almost like magic from the moment that we spoke to each other the very first time, and he's back in studio. Mike Lindell, the founder of MyPillow. Welcome back. It's so good to have you.
Kevin, it's great to be here.
It feels like my family coming to visit when you come in. I don't know if that's natural or not, but I'm so glad to see you. There's been a lot that's been going on in your life in the last year, and I'm trying to catch up on all the stuff. You know, I follow you on social media, which you should too if you're listening, friend. But it's hard to keep track of everything. So I want to just go back a little bit for people that don't know anything about your story. Let's start with just that. Who is Mike Lindell?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I was a former crack addict too. I mean, I had it's quite a story of a book coming out that's called "What Are the Odds: From Crack Addict to CEO."
You got to see the picture of the book.
Yeah. And I invented MyPillow 13, 14 years ago now. And but before that, like I say, I had different businesses, different things I tried as an entrepreneur, and divorced, 20-year marriage. I ended up getting divorced. People were taking our company, taking MyPillow, and a lot of adversity. That some of it my own, obviously, being a crack cocaine addict, but a lot of betrayal, a lot of stuff that happened up until January 16, 2009, when I quit everything overnight and got freed of at least the addictions, things from there, things that weren't always easy.
Did you even understand what kind of miracle that was the moment that it happened? Because you're a pretty on and off kind of guy. Like you're like a light switch. When you go right. 1,000%, and when you stop, you stop. Right. And so it doesn't surprise me that you were able to quit overnight. But a lot of people, they hear your story and they're inspired by that. But there's been a lot of people that haven't been able to have that kind of immediate success with it.
Well, for me, if you go back...
Was it just a God thing?
Yeah, well, if you go back that in 2008, there were a few things that happened that were planted seeds of, I was always telling, even that intervention the drug dealers did that time, I told them, I couldn't buy crack in the streets. I'd been up for 14 days, and the one dealer says, I come back up there, and it's like 2 a.m. He says, you've been telling us for years this pillow is just a platform for God, and that you're going to come back someday and help us all when you quit, and we're not going to let you die on us. And when drug dealers want you to quit because of the passion, they've asked even since. They've asked him, well, what made you believe him? That's not a normal thing a crack addict says. He says he just always would say it with such passion. But during that year, though, even a friend of mine came to me in December of 2008, a month before I quit, and he had been my equal. And this has a lot to do with the recovery network I'm setting up, and the Lindell Recovery Network. But he had started cocaine the same time I had. He had went to crack about the same time I did. And when I couldn't, if anybody would have came to me, he had been straight for 3 years, had found Jesus, and he had came to me and I said, Dick, what are you doing here? He says, I got in prayer to come out here. What's going on? I hadn't seen him in a year. And I said, well, as long as you're here, I got some questions for you. I said, is it boring? And he said, no, man, it ain't boring. But questions that only I would trust him because he's where I had been.
Right. Because he was your equal.
Yeah, because he was my equal. And when I quit everything on January 16, 2009, people say, well, where's your bottoms? Was that your bottom? Well, I knew one thing because for me, I was always survive. Addicts are good people. They're survivors, though. They're very, very resourceful. And so was that a bottom money-wise? I had made sure I didn't have anything left, but because in my mind, I wanted to make one of the greatest comebacks ever with God, all things are possible. And I actually thought of this that day where I knew that window would close. It was kind of like, the old TVs, Kevin, where you turn the black and white TV off and it go down that little blue dot.
Yep.
And then you turn it back on, it would all come back to life. Well, it didn't all come back to life right away, but it was, then miracles started happening after that. And, but actually, part of the story, I went back 2 months later. I actually went into our church had an outpatient treatment center there, and I was led to go there. And even though I was freed, my prayer was to be freed of the desires, okay? And I'll do this platform thing. That was my deal with God, you know.
Gotcha.
All right, here's the deal. I want to wake up with no desire, and I'll do this platform, you know, that I knew the pillow was a platform, and I didn't know what I'd be doing, whether I'd be evangelizing or whatever, or just show by example what can happen. But I went to this, I was led back to my church, this outpatient. I walked in there to sign up, and the guy, I met the counselor at the door that turned out to be my counselor, and I said, his name is Rafe Running. I said, Rafe, I said, hello. He said, my name is Rafe. I said, well, yeah, I used to be a crack addict. I quit 2 months ago. And I said, I'm freed of all that desire. But I said, I feel led here. I said, because someday I'm going to have a book. I'm going to have a foundation. It's a platform. I said, I don't know what it's all. Everything I told him, he was just like looking at me like, what's wrong with you? He went home and told his wife, he said, you should have seen this guy that came in today. I think he's on crack. You know? But him to see it all come to fruition now was amazing for him. But one of the things, Kevin, that I learned when I went in there, it wasn't like any other treatment center I'd ever been in. He said, we don't want to hear how much drugs you did and how much you did and all this stuff and everybody bragging about what you did and whose story's worse.
Right.
He said, we want to talk about your father. And I'd come from a divorced family, 7 years old when my parents divorced, and went back to pains you had and wounds you had as a child. And this, to me, that right there, and then also my friend come to me in that December is the basis for what I'm doing now, my Lindell Recovery Network, where I am taking stories of hope. Imagine tens of thousands of stories. And you come to this website, and I'm going to be like your tour guide, and you're going to put in, here I'm a 22-year-old opiate addict. I put that in. Well, I might not be able to relate to a 50-year-old crack addict or a 40-year-old meth.
Drugs act differently,
right.
My behavior's different.
Right.
Yeah.
So all these stories of a 22-year-old opiate addict that have made it through, these stories of hope that got through. And that gives the addict hope, and then I'm going to be their little tour guide. I'm going to say, hey, now go over here. I have vetted every single center in the country that I have vetted that, trust me, this is what works. Your Salvation Army, amazing. Teen Challenge, Union Gospel, all these centers that work. Get them in there, and I'm going to say, hold on. I'm going to be there for you when you get out. And when you get out, I'm going to have paid mentors all over the country, Kevin, that are careers. That's all they do is mentor when these guys come out of these faith-based centers, and it's going to change the country.
This is all out of your own vision and your own mind and your own pocketbook. This is an incredible thing. I know that you've interacted with the president some on this issue. Mm-hmm. You got a bill signed. What'd that bill accomplish?
Well, that's 800 pages. I was at the White House when he signed it.
I'm sure you read every single one of them, too.
No, but you know what I did do, Kevin? Doug Wardlow, he's a friend of mine. He ran against Keith Ellison in Minnesota for Attorney General. I hired him, so I'm having him read it. That's his first project. I said, Doug, you need to figure all this out. But it's going to do a lot of good things with the faith-based centers, and I'm hoping part of it. This is what I heard anyway. I didn't read all 800 pages, but to get money to where things that go to that work. You know, your Teen Challenge stuff, these places work, but they used to give them money. Like in Minnesota, you give a faith-based center, if they take any money, then they take Jesus out of the equation. They take God out of it. Going, okay, now we got rules that you got to live by. Well, the stuff we were doing was working. Why are you changing a paradigm, changing our model? Because you need to put the money into what's working, the help that's working. Should
be accountable to results.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this bill allows for that.
Yeah, I believe it does. Wow. And there's a lot of good things in there. I don't know them all. I don't know it all, but I'm going to learn it the next time I'm on your show. I'm going to know every word of that bill.
How significant is it to you, having come out of that background, that we have a president who didn't just mention this casually in the campaign? He campaigned on it, and now he's taken action in passing this legislation.
Well, Kevin, the first time I met him, which was August 15, 2016, as you know the story, and it was a divine appointment. We talked about two things in there. He said, you always wear your cross, Mike, on TV. Are you a Christian? I said, yes, and it's a divine appointment. And one of the main things we talked about was the inner cities, and we also talked about addiction because I told him about my crack cocaine addiction.
And you see the two somewhat related, the inner cities and addictions.
Absolutely. You've got my pain of being, I lived it, and my pain of being coming from a divorced family and fatherlessness is so bad, and I think it's more pronounced in the, getting the inner cities, and they did a poll, Kevin, in a prison, and this is recently, where how many inmates do you think that both their parents got married, then planned the child, had the child, and were still together to that day? It was 0%.
Wow.
And you go down the county jail level, obviously it goes up and up and up. It just tells you how important family is, and family and God, you've in our society it started back when my parents divorced when I was 7. Divorces were not common then, right? And I'm telling you, it affected me. I had such a spirit of rejection in a new school, and unworthiness. If you'd have told me, I would either show off, like climb out of moving bus windows to say, "Hey, look at me," or I wouldn't talk to people. I couldn't speak, And if you'd have told me I'd be speaking like I just spoke in Texas, 50,000 millennials down there speaking out for Jesus, I would have said, that's not me.
Yeah. I don't think anybody that knows you now, though, Mike, I think they all have a hard time believing there was a time when you couldn't speak.
Oh, yeah. There it was. I'll tell you. That's it. That's why with when I got addicted to cocaine, and I could talk to people.
It loosened you up.
It was like a mask, and it was a false courage,
I want to go back to what
I think that, by the way, Kevin, I think that's a lot of drug addiction nowadays, too, where you got these, with the opiates and stuff. It's to fit in. It's fear of rejection, unworthiness.
Sure.
They need to feel like they're, they need to have hope and a purpose in life, too.
Well, I want to stay on this for a second because you and I have talked off the air, and we have a lot of mutual friends because since we've met each other, it seems like our worlds have overlapped in a lot of different ways. And now that's true in a movie setting, and it's true in a couple of other things. But you and I have talked off the air about some of our mutual friends. And you use this term that I don't think I've ever heard anybody else use, but you call it the daddy wound,
right.
And that it leaves a hole in people, and sometimes even people that have come to faith, or even sometimes people that are seen as leaders or other things. That what is it that you're describing, and why does it leave the damage that it does?
It's a father wound, and it's I've done a lot of research on it, and a lot of I went through programs for myself, and it's not just a father. A father can be there, but not be there.
Right.
You know what I mean? To not be there emotionally and whatever, and you get a wound. A wound of, it's not just fatherless. It can be you need that father figure.
You want that affirmation
that
from him.
affirmation from the father, and people say, well, there's mother wounds too. Yeah, there is, but predominantly, and you can check it out. A lot of these, the research and stuff now will say that it's so important. That's why divorce, or even fathers being there. Back in the day where the father was working, and and you had a mother at home, and the father was there, but he wasn't there.
Right.
I mean, there's and I believe.
Physically present, but emotionally absent.
But emotionally absent, and there's and that's I think that affects so much from not just when you get into addiction, it's not just that father wound, but also there can be other ones, or trauma. That's why you see trauma too. That's why you see veterans. Trauma that comes later on. That comes later on, and I'm going through a lot of veteran programs that I go through. Operation Restore Warrior, amazing program. I went through it twice. They focus on the father wound, and they focus on childhood, and then trauma, of course, that they've experienced. Being in the situation of being in military.
We're speaking with Mike Lindell, who started coming on my show 5-6 years ago. I forget how long it is now, to talk about MyPillow, which is certainly the greatest technological sleep invention ever discovered. And if you haven't tried it, we've got a great offer for you, 888-506-2641, 888-506-2641, and you can put in the promo code KMC, and you'll get whatever discount. I know there's one off the bed topper. You can get 30% off and 2 free pillows. There's also a 4-pack. You can get 2 regulars and 2 travels, and it's for half the price. And I would encourage you to check that out. But I'm really grateful that Mike and I have developed a friendship that deals with much deeper things and the things of God. And you'll frequently text me. You say, "Kev, I got a question about this. What does this mean?" And I'm always so excited because that tells me that you're still on the journey and that you're being faithful. You have decided to use some of the riches of MyPillow to invest in causes that you believe in. And you have dabbled with some faith-based films on a couple of different levels, but this last year you had a chance to be involved in a film called Unplanned. Right. And I'm curious about the story, about how it came to your attention and then what your thoughts were, and then as it began to take shape, because it comes out in early next year, I believe.
Spring March 22nd.
Of 2019.
And just for the record, this is Mike Lindell that's doing this. Not that's not my pillow.
What I meant was your personal.
My personal. I take. I do stuff as You're
not investing the company's monies. Yeah,
I do when I believe in something. I do it, and it doesn't. They can attack my company all I want, but I just double down.
You're like the president that way.
But
Unplanned.
They came to me with Unplanned. I was actually on my way to Israel, and I was in the plane, and they had talked to me. I think at their NRB, the National Religious Broadcast, they had talked to me there and a couple of times, and it was like 0 hour, and they called me up. They said, "Mike, we prayed about this, and we want you. We have a cameo part. We need you in this movie. It's kind of the climax of the movie, and it's about true story of Abby Johnson, called Unplanned, a book called Unplanned, And I was with my gal Kendra, and we got off the phone. We said, "Well, let's call you back." We prayed about it. We got to, yes, and not only yes, but to put money into it.
Right.
Put money into the cause.
And let me just pause here. Abby Johnson, for those of you that listen, she's been on the show, but she was the Planned Parenthood clinic director and employee of the year at one point for Planned Parenthood, that then became the whistleblower telling the true story about what happens inside the clinics. I just wanted to give that context.
Yeah, and I went down there. I got back from Israel. I had to have this commitment, and it was a hidden place. They didn't announce it, Kevin.
When they took our media tour in there, we did the same thing. Swear on the oath of your youngest child, you won't tell where they are at. But that's because they were going to have people show up and try to disrupt the making because of the story.
Absolutely. And they told me now with this cameo, I had to drive a bulldozer and take this this sign down. It's a very, very, it's really
it's an emotional part.
Emotional scene. I mean, it's a big. And I said, so I'm all excited for it. We got there's 300-400 extras there, and they got this sign. There's going to be 3 shots. Well, it kept getting later in the day. Now you're only going to get 1 shot at this, okay? And they bring in a stunt man, and I'm going to drive the bulldozer. I said, no. I'm not going on shows down the road and saying I got a stunt man. The guy didn't even have a mustache, Kevin.
He couldn't have been you.
So they're going to have me outside this, and then he's going to do the actual drive-in. And there's 3 producers. I said, no. I said, I do stuff that's real, and I get behind it, and I'm not gonna, And they said, well, we're only getting 1 shot at this, and they're talking amongst themselves, and they come back, and so they move the extras back a little bit, try and make it all legal, whatever. And anyway,
in case Mike accidentally rolled the bulldozer.
So I get the bulldozer, and it's got to be perfect, okay?
Right? Of course,
you get 1 shot, and I put her in reverse, and I hit the thing, and it's not moving. Oh, I forgot to take off the emergency brake thing, And now you can see the nervousness on their face, like he doesn't know what he's doing. I go, I'm just testing the engine, whatever. And also, I'm going to hurry up before they change their mind. And I back up, and the whole sign came down perfect. I mean, it was just absolutely, I'm praying, please, Lord, like this. And it was just amazing. And then it got announced, I think, by the Hollywood Reporter now, and it came out everywhere, and you'd be surprised I haven't been attacked, and
That's really unusual because there's been a couple of pro-life films that have come out, some of which even Christian stars that were involved in them decided to pull out of the not be associated with them. I really think, having been on the set with Unplanned and having interviewed all of the cast members, the main cast members, I really do believe that this is going to be a very powerful story that is going to shock audiences across the country, and nobody knows that it's coming. So it's going to be one of those things where when it hits and you take your friends to see it, they're going to have their hearts broken because of what has happened in this country. And I hope that, and I'm not going to tell you much more, friend, listening today. You're just going to have to listen closely.
Well, I love true stories.
And get it.
True stories, and it's something I got behind. So I suppose I'm going to be down the road.
But
I'm going to be
people
attacked.
don't believe that it's as bad as it is inside the clinics, and that's where this movie is going to help them understand that.
It's going to expose a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's just close on this.
Can we pick on Silicon Valley for a little bit?
Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I was going to say your entrepreneurialism is still going. In fact, besides MyPillow, I know you've helped launch some vitamins and some other things. But this next project you've got coming up, I think, may be the coolest one yet because, you're going after some big targets here.
Well, I get tired of entrepreneurs in our country. We don't have platforms to go up on. You go up on Google, and they have all their ads. They put these ads up. You got to have 1,000 SKUs. It is corrupt as far as I'm concerned. It's shameful what they do.
And you've been saying this, by the way, off the air for about 3 years.
A long time.
You've been tracing
You've
it.
got all these driven ads. They don't have to pay for the platform of the internet. You got Facebook, Twitter, Google, but you got the monster, and that's Amazon. And you get products. You get a product. You're an entrepreneur. You put your product up there. It's copied in China or wherever they're copied, and they get to buy ads above you. And you're lost. Try and get to a box store if you're an entrepreneur and see if you're going to be taken there. I'm sorry, talk to the hand. The park's closed. And I went through this.
Right.
I've been through it, and I know, and I got a voice now for the entrepreneur. Kevin, over the last couple of years, entrepreneurs have sent me ideas. These are, American-made product. All these good things. And I'm going to have a platform. It's going to be called mystore.com. And that platform...
You've got the URL?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
There was a divine appointment. This guy came to me. Amazing. And so that's going to be up there. And each one of these is going to be a story of the product, the entrepreneurial story. Maybe it's got to help people physically, mentally, Jesus. It can be books or whatever, the inspirational book, or help the entrepreneur.
Or just great product like the MyPillow.
Right, absolutely. But there'll be a story. So each one of these squares, they'll have a platform for these entrepreneurs to put up their products. And I think with the eyes coming, when my book comes out, I'm going to be directing everybody there. So you're getting the eyes. All it is, a platform is all about the eyes.
Right.
Who's watching and
Page
who do they
views.
trust?
Yeah.
And this is we're vetting the products. We're vetting everything. You're not going to get up in this platform just going, oh, I'm going to be up there. And there's not going to be all the stuff that goes on these other platforms where you worked hard your whole life and it gets copied or taken by overseas.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, you talk about the president. He's very aware of our products being copied and everything in this country.
That's why we're fighting China so hard.
Absolutely. It is so bad. I could tell you stories about, lucky MyPillow now, or I'm very blessed that MyPillow's big enough so all these attacks, I can take it, frivolous lawsuits and all these things. By the way, let's just make the record clear. And I know I was sued and stuff back when I got behind the president and for my testimonials being so good with MyPillow. Well, guess what, Kevin? A sleep study just got done, and all of it now is proven. MyPillow, 100% of the participants get better sleep with MyPillow. Wait till you see the statistics are staggering. 38% of the people would not go back to the other pill, the placebo pill or whatever. Once they slept on MyPillow, said, "I quit. I'm out of here. I'm taking it with me."
That was my personal story.
But it's just all the people out there, 43 million people that have the MyPillow. Well, guess what? Your testimonials now we all knew it, but now we got proof.
Well, you had a lot of colloquial proof. People were telling you, they were sending you emails. They said, "I can't believe all this."
At one time, it was 1 in 5.
But it was the BBB or who was it that came after you and said you can't prove any of these?
The frivolous lawyers in California.
Right.
These lawyers in California that you got all these lawsuits. I'm telling you, if you could take away frivolous lawsuits in this country and make it loser pays. it would, to bring the product cost for all the consumers would go way down. These big companies use it as the cost of doing business. They know they're going to get, let's give all the lawyers something, let's give all the lawyers money. And it is shameful.
Well,
and these watchdog groups that are supposed to be watching for products, for consumer products and stuff, you know what they do? They sell ads of counterfeit products. That's what they do nowadays. It's very corrupt.
Well, what would we do if we couldn't keep Michael Avenatti in business?
Right.
That's basically what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, Mike, it's always good to have you in studio, and thanks for coming by, and just God bless you as you continue to work hard, and on behalf of the entrepreneur and the addict and everybody in between, this country's a better place because you're here. So thanks for doing it.
Well, I give the glory to God, and I'm going to keep going. He gave me a very big platform, and I pray for wisdom and discernment every day.
Yeah, no better way to do it. Kevin McCullough Radio, stay with us.